Well, Jeff, thank you for coming back on R2C2. Your episode around the trade deadline was a huge hit. And now we get to chat with you after history's made by Aaron Judge and heading into the baseball playoffs. So thanks for being back, man.
It's great to be here. It's an exciting time of year. I love October. I don't sleep. I'm traveling everywhere, but this is the best fall that there is. It is.
It's the best time of year, though, because basketball's starting. You got fantasy football up. It's playoff baseball. You know what I'm saying? Like, best time of year for all ball. Like, it's incredible.
I'm about to win my fantasy baseball league. I think today. This has been going on since I was 10 years old.
Wow.
Like our dads were in it. And there's actually a winner's penalty where if you win the league, you get to write, record, and in front of them at the draft next year, perform a diss track on all the other people in the league. And so of all the important things I'm going to be writing this offseason, Aaron Judge's free agency, DeGrom's free agency, Ohtani getting traded. No, I'm going to put more effort into my song than any of those.
Oh, man, that is terrific. Well, we look forward to hopefully seeing that make its way around the internet at some point.
It will.
Absolutely.
If it ever does, I will probably be fired. So no, it's not going to be anywhere. It's not going to be anywhere near there.
So we'll keep it under wraps. So, Jeff, I mean, there's so much we want to get into with you, and also be conscious of your time, busy man this time of year. But let's just start with what CC and I opened our episode with, and that's just reflecting on Judge and 62 for you. Just, I mean, there's a million different ways to talk about this accomplishment, but what is the thing that resonates most with you about this season that Aaron Judge has had?
I think there's a tendency, because baseball is a sport that loves and reveres its history more than any, to try and contextualize this by comparing it to what's happened in the past. I like contextualizing it by looking at the game today and how Aaron Judge compares to his peers. And it's why when I look at Shohei Ohtani's season this year, as incredible a performance as you can possibly imagine, he's been the best pitcher in baseball for the last 4 months. He's one of the best hitters in baseball, and somehow Aaron Judge not only has been a better player, but a more valuable player as well. And I look at the game now. I look at the fastball velocity. I look at the breaking balls that are being designed in labs. I look at the defense. I look at everything that conspires against hitters to make them less effective. And Aaron Judge somehow has been more effective, and not just more effective in his ability to put the bat on the ball and hit it over the fence. He's just a better hitter, a better defender, a better runner, a better baseball player. And to be doing this going into your 30s, when baseball players are supposed to be heading off to the morgue because, once you hit 30, it's all downhill from there. The fact that he's doing this now, I think, speaks to who he is, not just as a player, but as somebody who's really taken care of himself in a better fashion and executed a plan. And that to me is the most telling part of this whole thing. Aaron Judge had a choice as he was getting older. He could have continued doing the same thing, or he could have figured out how to work smarter, preserve his body, and stay on the field. And all he ever needed was to stay on the field to perform like this. And he's having the year he is against the competition he is because of that.
No, I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head when, it's just about him staying on the field. I think you saw it the very first year. I mean, even the year he hit 50 at 52, that first year was like, damn, he could have hit 70. But he's just such a young hitter. You know what I'm saying? And then it was just a bunch of injuries and not being able, like you said, figuring out how to take care of himself. Maybe not running as hard on, some of these plays, or you still see him diving at some of these plays on, and damn, cuz like, just let that ball go. Like, that's 10 rows deep. But like, I mean, that's just who he is. But like you said, being able to understand how to take care of himself, to be out on the field, I think is the most valuable thing, because what he does and who he is and how hard he hits the ball, nobody can replicate that. That's why he is, number 99, a creative player. But it's just about, it's just about him being able to stay on the field and be able to play 155 games. And these are the numbers he can put up consistently. It's crazy.
And see, you're one of the few people who actually can not just look Aaron Judge in the eye, but look at him as a baseball player and say, I know what it's like as a big man to age and how difficult it is, and how, these guys who are 6'1" or 6'2", 180, 190, 200 pounds, they have such a different aging process than a bigger man who's got the stress on his bones, on his joints, on his muscles, on everything at a higher level because he is carrying around that extra size. And it makes it even more difficult, I think, to do what he's doing and going forward to continue doing what he's done.
Yeah, for sure.
And Jeff, I think the way you just articulated the context within the season of Aaron Judge's season, looking around the league, it was so beautifully said. And to me, that's what resonates for me as well. It's not so much, the history and chasing Maris, obviously that was amazing and that's so fun. But it's also then when you're looking at what he's done this year, it's looking at the rest of the league and the way you talked about how, basically the game is conspired to make hitting difficult right now, but also when you just see that no one is close to touching what he's doing this year. And Fangraphs had a great article today about that, putting in context what he's done really we have not seen since the 20s and 30s when you look at one player compared to the rest of baseball.
I just look at Aaron Judge's OPS plus, and I know it's a very simple statistic. OPS, probably doesn't weight on base percentage as much as it should. It has on base percentage and slugging is equivalent when OBP is more important than slug, but it's still a pretty good catch-all number. And OPS plus is your OPS compared to the average in the league. And the average is a 100. Aaron Judge is a 211 OPS plus this year. Anytime you get over 200, it means that you are 100% better than the average player in the major leagues. It's silly to think that he's outproducing guys by 2+X, but that's where he is this year. And the counting stats, the runs, the RBIs, of course, the home runs, even the walks, they all back that up. And by the way, Aaron Judge hit 311 this year.
Yeah.
Remember that first season when he hit 52 home runs, he also struck out 208 times.
Yeah.
And anytime you have a guy who's punching 208 times, you can't fathom the possibility of him hitting 300. But Aaron Judge's turn into a complete player has been pretty damn well timed.
Well, you are not. Yeah, the timing is definitely the word, Jeff, when you look ahead to the offseason. I want to drive us towards the playoffs, but because you just said that and you mentioned three things before that interest me, let's just touch on that briefly. His free agency, as you can hear, my daughter really wants to know about as well. His free agency, Jeff, do you think that, is there a chance that a team like the Giants could come in? I know people are talking about, 10 years, $400 million. Is there a chance that they could say, no, 10 years, $500 million? We're going to do whatever it takes to make it almost impossible for him to say no.
Nope, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
I don't think 400 is going to happen either.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Listen, I hesitate to talk in certainties. But what I try to do in situations like this with free agency is break them down as logically as I possibly can. And the logic here is very simple. Not since Derek Jeter have the New York Yankees, the preeminent team in North American sports, one of the biggest brands in the world, produced a player like Derek Jeter. And Aaron Judge is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Judge is the heir to the captain, and one would assume to the captaincy if he returns. And there have been moments this season where if you take Aaron Judge out of that lineup, you're like, is this team any good? And I know,
yeah,
and I know a lot of that was when they were banged up, and when Kiner Falefa was batting fourth, and there were. You've had Oswaldo Cabrera and Oswald Peraza come up in a addition to Rizzo returning, to LeMahieu returning, to Stanton returning, and all of a sudden the Yankees lineup looks supercharged like it was earlier this season. But even now, if you take Aaron Judge out of it, it ain't the same team. And you can try and backfill that with, 1, 2, 3 guys here. But man, baseball may not be a superstar game, but the New York Yankees are a superstar organization. And is there anyone right now who embodies superstardom in baseball better than Aaron Judge?
No, it's not close.
No, I think Judgy needs to recognize that Yankee uniform too, because if he is doing this in San Francisco, it's not as big of a story. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, they let Robbie Cano walk at this time too, when he was the biggest free agent, and they produced him as the heir apparent to the. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was kind of the same thing. And
it wasn't. No, it wasn't. He was never. It wasn't close. Come on, man.
In that clubhouse, he was. In that clubhouse, I'm telling you, I was in there. He was.
Yep.
And
but
so
you think
that was
Robbie was seen the same way that Judge is?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He had the same. Right. They had the same amount of pull, especially at that time. For sure, Cano did. Yeah.
But not as to the fan base. See, would you agree with that? Like, Cano was never the face of the franchise the way that Judge is.
Absolutely not. No. Yeah. Nobody is ever the the face of the franchise like Derek Jeter until there's the Aaron Judge right now.
Right.
But as far as like pulling the weight in the clubhouse, 1,000%.
That's I was going to say. Robbie has been beloved wherever he's gone. Mm-hmm. And he's a guy who bridged Latin American and American players. He was the conduit there, and that goes a long way. Aaron Judge, I've spent a fair bit of time around the Yankees the last few weeks, and seeing the reverence that people have for him inside that clubhouse, it's a very real thing.
Absolutely.
Like, he just does little things that endear him to people. And it's not just the other stars in the clubhouse. It's the 26th man. It's stupid stuff you wouldn't think would make that big of a difference. But when the guy who's going and breaking the American League home run record and hitting 62 home runs, if you need a fork for the food you're eating, and he says, "Hey, you need me to get you a fork?" That stuff, like, that goes a long way. It's just being a decent human being. And I think that's one thing with him that everybody who's around him says he's a decent person.
Yeah. I hope they both recognize that and get this deal done, and he stays in a Yankee uniform.
Okay. See, let me ask you this, because somebody brought this up to me a few days ago, and I'm curious. Listen, I can try and believe that I know how athletes think after doing this for 20 years, but I don't have that level of competition inside me to understand whether this particular thing I'm about to pose would be too negative a thought for anyone who's competitive to have, or a particularly realistic one. And that is this. If Aaron Judge left New York right now, he would be leaving after one of the most historic seasons in baseball history. He would be leaving after breaking Roger Maris's American League record. He would be leaving with a lot of goodwill still, I think. And I feel like if he left, the blame may go to the Yankees, who have been taking slings and arrows in recent years about their willingness, or in some eyes, unwillingness to go and spend money. But the reason someone posed to me that he might want to leave is because he understands that if he goes back, it's going to be 8, 9, 10 years. It's going to be for $35, $38, $40 million a year. And that by the end of the contract, he is not going to be the player that he once was in all likelihood. And New York is an unforgiving, unrelenting place. And what this person suggested is, why would he want to ruin a great ending like this by sticking around for a long time and potentially putting himself in that position where things could turn ugly at the end? Is that something that players think about? And is that something that you think, knowing Aaron Judge how you do, that would enter into his mind?
That's something that players think about that didn't grow up a Yankee. Aaron Judge grew up a New York Yankee. This is all he knows is playing in the Bronx. All he knows is excellence and trying to win championships. All he's ever seen since he's walked into a professional clubhouse is 27 championships. That's the goal. So no, I mean, this is what he's born into. He don't know any, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody else like coming out and you know, going into that organization, like if I got a chance to wiggle out of here right now and maybe finish up somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. But no. He don't know any better. And that's to Brett Gardner's point, why he didn't play anywhere this year. Because he don't know anything but playing in the Bronx and putting that uniform on and competing to win a championship. No matter how the season goes, that's just what they know. And when they grow up that way, that's who they are.
And you know what else? Like from the fan perspective, when you are with the homegrown guys, it's a whole different leash at the end of the road, you know?
Oh, okay. You know what? That's fair. That's fair.
Like, because it's different. It's different than the hired gun or, you know, who's brought in and not producing. Like the end years of Mark Teixeira or, you know, an Alex Rodriguez, whoever it might be, are going to be treated differently than the end years of Derek Jeter or Bernie Williams or whoever, you know, or in this case, an Aaron Judge. But it's interesting. I love all of this, Jeff. And I also, you know, I want to ask you about these playoffs because it feels to me like we are positioned to have an epic postseason. CeCe's been jacked up about the NL playoffs since July.
I don't blame him. I mean, honestly, like most of the great teams in baseball right now, I think, are in the National League.
Yeah.
I think the National League's a lot stronger.
Yeah.
How do you see, just starting with the, you know, just thinking about, not to go series by series, but let's dive Padres Mets. What stands out to you about this series and what we might see in 3 games at Citi Field after the Braves ended up yanking the division away?
I'm genuinely curious to see 2 things. Number one, how did the Mets rebound? Not from a collapse, because let's get one thing straight. They didn't. The Braves went secretariat on their ass. That's what happened.
No, but you can call it a collapse at Truist last weekend.
Yes,
no?
that's right. Yeah.
So they did collapse. They got their asses whooped. And they had their 3 guys going, too.
They did. No, they choked at Truist, but they didn't collapse for the whole season. But we can't boil this down. I understand it's a huge series. You just cannot do that. But this was something where Atlanta spent 4 months playing like the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Like that's what happened. And Atlanta just caught them from behind and was one of those races where if you don't have your foot on the gas the entire time, it's going to be a problem. But the second part of this, you know, I think the Mets certainly have the fortitude to recover. I'm curious to see how Buck Showalter lays out his rotation. I am very curious to see if Max Scherzer is going game 1, and if they win game 1, do they use Chris Bassett in game 2, hoping that he can end the series there, and then they have in a 5-game series against the Dodgers, DeGrom in game 1. I got to look at the calendar, but I think it would probably be maybe Taijuan Walker in game 2, or you know,
or Cookie.
Yeah, or
Could
Carrasco.
Scherzer come back for game 2 at that point?
I'm not sure if Scherzer's back for 2 or if he would be back for 3.
I wouldn't even push it though yet. You know what I'm saying? But that's interesting the way they have to lay it out now. That they didn't win the division, they got to play in this wild card series. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a lot tougher for that older team and kind of rotation to go through this and try to win the World Series now, I think.
Yeah, and let's not look past San Diego. You know, there's been some disappointing times for that team this year. Juan Soto hasn't produced like he hoped to. Josh Bell's sort of disappeared since he's gotten traded over. But over the last couple of months, there may not be a better pitching duo in baseball than Yu Darvish and Blake Snell. They have been that good. They have been those dudes. And when you have Joe Musgrove lined up, you know, to fill out that rotation, and when you have a bullpen that's sneaky good like the Padres is, and I don't know that the Mets have enough bullpen depth to compete maybe with the Atlantas or the Houstons of the world. I'm not going to say the Mets are in trouble. I'm picking them to win the series, But if San Diego starting pitching goes out and shoves, like, it could be a wrap, and they are more than capable of doing that.
Jeff, how about have you sensed any sort of general reaction to the new format and how it's being received throughout baseball, either, within teams or clubhouses or anything along those lines?
I think the interesting part of this whole thing is the sentiment that it may be more advantageous to be a 2 seed than a 1 seed. Because if you let's look at what the 2 seeds have. The Yankees are going to be facing either Cleveland, which was far and away the weakest division winner, or the 6 seed in Tampa. So if you have a weak division like both of the central divisions are, who would you rather face? Would you rather face the winner of Tampa and Cleveland, or would you rather face the winner of Toronto and Seattle?
Yeah, no doubt. You'd rather face the Tampa Cleveland winner.
Yep.
Famous last words, but yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing in the National League, though.
It's the same thing in the National League.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good I had not thought of that, Jeff, but that's a great point.
Because the Dodgers are going to have to play the Mets. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why I just said, because, I've been picking the Mets since like July. I was been high on them. But now, after not winning the division, I just assumed they were going to win division. So that's why I say they collapsed, because I just, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's over. And then the Braves chase them down and then, give them an ass whooping then at Truist. So then I'm like, now it's going to be even tougher, because now they have to go and play the Dodgers right after this tough series against San Diego.
I know. And if they beat the Dodgers, they're probably going to have to go play the Braves. The Mets have the single toughest path in the entire postseason. Yeah. It's not even close. And all because of that. Well, not all, but pretty much all because of that series at Truist.
Yeah, no, it is true. Jeff, how about if you were, do you in the National League, do you have a favorite that you feel strongly about, talking about how, loaded the competition is out there? Is there one team for you that you feel like, but they're still my favorite?
It's weird for you to ask that question and me not to say the 110 win team.
Dodgers, yeah.
But I'm not going to, because I think Atlanta is a significantly better team than it was last year when it won the World Series. You add Michael Harris Jr. in center field, stud. You add Spencer Strider, who they're hoping to get back from an oblique, into a rotation, and he's right there alongside Harris in the Rookie of the Year voting. You add Kyle Wright, who was a non-factor last year and is a 20-game winner now. You add Kenley Jansen to that bullpen. You replace Freddie Freeman with Matt Olson. Matt Olson's not Freddie Freeman, pretty damn good. You see Dansby Swanson take a step forward. You see Austin Riley stabilize as the star he is. You see Ronald. Oh, by the way, Ronald Acuna Jr. didn't play in the playoffs last year. He's back.
Yeah.
They add a guy in Colin McHugh who just gives different looks from Matzik and Minter and Raisel Iglesias they get at the trade deadline. They're loaded everywhere. And as much as I want to, as much as I want to sit here and say that contact is of the utmost importance in the playoffs, because I do believe that, if you're trying to create a secret sauce for playoff winning, that contact, it does go a long way. The Braves strike out a lot, but they hit nukes and they pitch their ass off, and they're just really, really talented top to bottom.
They are, and they're confident. Is like they know they're really good. You know what I'm saying? Like Dansby comes up in a big spot, and he just he went deep in all 3 of those games last weekend.
He did.
It's incredible how they step up to the moment and not just get big hits, but like you said, they hit nukes in big spots. It's impressive to watch. So yeah, and if you, arguably, I think, if Mookie don't make that catch in Texas in 2020, then the Braves go to the World Series that year too. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So they may be the better team for the last 3 years. You know what I'm saying? So, we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
It's wild to think about, though, right? A team with 110 wins, and they're not like the obvious. Well, of course, they're the favorite in the National League.
And here's it's not just a team with 110 wins; it's a team with Trey Turner and Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Will Smith and Justin Turner, and you can go on and on. It's a team with Julio Urias, whose second half ERA is like 1, and Tyler Anderson comes out of nowhere to be a frontline starter. They lose this year Walker Buehler and Blake Trinan and Daniel Hudson, and can go on and on about the injuries that the Dodgers have sustained. And one of the reasons that they are, I think, probably the model organization in baseball right now. Well, number one, it helps to have $250 million payrolls. But beyond that, the drafting and developing that they've done has allowed them to have a ton of depth. And when one man goes down, they always seem to have someone else to pick them right back up. And when you have that organizational depth in place, then that allows you to have young guys in the big leagues and to go out and spend on superstars. And that's exactly what they do. But the Dodgers bullpen worries me. It does. They have, they do not have, they're like the Yankees. They don't have a guy right now who's pitching the 9th inning. Just don't know who it's going to be. And maybe they figure it out like they did in 2020 when they put Julio Urias in that role at the end of the game. Maybe that's Andrew Heaney. No, maybe they can go back to Urias. But until I know what the Dodgers are doing in those final innings, I'm just not going to be able to trust them quite as much as I do the Braves.
I think that makes a lot of sense, man, which is crazy to think about, but it makes a lot of sense. Jeff, we'll get you out of here in just a moment. Just want to ask you this one. American League, if we don't see Yankees Astros in the ALCS, who do you think will be the team that prevents that from happening?
Ooh, that's a good question. I have the Rays and the Jays advancing.
Okay.
And they're two really different teams, and not just in their construction, but in their pedigree. I think we've seen the Rays be bad motherfuckers in the playoffs,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I mean, play just so high above what you think their talent level is, what we perceive their names to be. And so I appreciate that about Tampa Bay. I appreciate the way Kevin Cash manages. I don't think this is one of their better teams, but I do think they match up pretty well against Cleveland. Toronto, if it gets good starting pitching and can figure out a 3 or 4 reliever rotation upon whom it can rely, and maybe that's Bass, maybe that's Pop, maybe that's Simber, maybe that's Meza, definitely Jordan Romano, Jimmy Garcia, like they got enough guys there. If they get that bullpen going and get and figure out who that third pitcher in their rotation is going to be, because I don't know if you guys have watched a lot of Alek Manoah. He might be my favorite pitcher to watch in the big leagues these days.
I like him in an October spot too.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I love him in October.
Yeah.
And Kevin Gossman, he's one of those guys who doesn't walk anyone, strikes out a lot of dudes, doesn't give up a lot of home runs, and has been hurt by his defense this year. And if there's going to be a downfall for the Blue Jays, it will be their gloves and or their pitching depth. But I'll tell you, if they're that team that gets on a heater in October, they can beat the Yankees, they can beat the Astros, they can go to the World Series. The talent is so good there.
How about your World Series prediction, Jeff, if you have one?
I'm going chalky this year. You know what? I picked the White Sox in the preseason this year and feel like a real asshole. And you know what? You're never going to be too big of an asshole for going chalkish. So I'm going Braves over Astros.
All right. Well, Jeff, we always appreciate the time, man. Your perspective, insight, just your delivery. I really like your delivery, man. I think, underrated part of your overall
Is that
game.
so? I appreciate that because I'm just a writer. I'm just faking this shit.
Well, you're faking it well, man. You're faking it well. Jeff, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Enjoy October, and hopefully we'll catch up again sometime before free agency.
Hey, the real pleasure of this all has been listening to you be a terrible dad. Right? Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I'm telling you, Evie is very into her avocado and strawberries right now. Yeah, that's right. 13 months old, Jeff. You know this life.
Yeah, I know it now. Trust me. She will stay cute for the rest of her life, but I've got large, smelly, gross teenage boys, and let me tell you, that's a thing.
That's a different problem. Cece knows that life,
man.
Well,
Jeff, by the way, Cece, I did mean to tell you this. My son wants Win Reality because of you and Carson's commercial.
There you go. If they're gonna, does he play the VR all the time?
No, we still have avoided the VR thing in our household just because I'm one of those parents. He's a freshman in high school this year, and he's a pitcher, and we did not get him a phone until the end of 8th grade.
Oh, so you've been doing great. But
yes.
if you're gonna break down and get the VR, you might as well just make it be a baseball thing. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? You sound like a 15-year-old right now.
The things are laying all over your Carter's probably playing right now.
Oh man. Well, Jeff, thank you so much, man. We look forward to the next time we talk to you, and hopefully we catch you at the ballpark in October.
Looking forward to it, boys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jeff.